So I mentioned a couple minutes ago that you don't have to take the whole axle out to swap the gears, but we like it. It gives us a lot of access, and we can actually show you guys what's going on in the guts there when we start ripping it apart.
You know, the guts is where we're going to dig into, because what we want to do is change the gear ratio to compensate for that bigger tire. Now, think about it. You got a bigger tire, you need more mechanical gear to get it up and going. Now, when you switch from the JK to the JL, you went from a 5-speed to an 8-speed transmission, and that helped give it a little more get up and go. Now you throw a big old tire on it, and it's like you're almost back to that 5-speed. You don't want to step back in time. You want to move forward, right? So that's why we're going to switch everything out in terms of ring and pinion gear. But one thing we want to note is, in the JL, there's a serious upgrade in terms of the status quo that Dana had put out for years, or decades actually, in terms of the complete package. It's the Advantech system. It's not only a ring and pinion gear, but it's bearings, it's axles, it's the whole thing that works together to take you kind of to the next level in terms of performance.
All right, so let's take a look at what we had for decades, right? This was a good system. It worked. It was dependable. Nothing wrong with it,
No,
right?
right.
But they did take it to the next level, like you said, in the JL, and that's for the guys that really, you know, the guys that are going to push it a little bit harder. You want something that's strong. It's not going to break. It's going to hold up. That's what they did. So you take a look at the ring gear, right? Obviously, it's a little bit smaller like that, but it's actually stronger the way that they did it. So you got a smaller size, more strength, and you can tell that too when you look at the shaft on that one.
Yeah, you know, the pinion itself, you can see the diameter is physically larger itself, so it's stronger. It's going to be able to handle more power, and it's all about power density. So you've got a smaller package. You're going to have more clearance around your diff itself, so ground clearance is a thing. Plus, you're able to put more power in a smaller package and have less drag. Well, that's going to be more power to the tires with less inefficiencies, and that's the way we want to go. So that's got a 410 gear. It's already got the Advantech in it, but now we're just going to change it to a 488. I see, while we're at it, dial it up a little bit, huh?
I think it'll look great, dude.
So with the outer shafts out of the way, now we're going to remove the electronic part. This is essentially like electronic version of a locking hub, which engages and disengages the axle. So that here is out of the way. Then we have to take this inner shaft, slide it back. It's kind of tricky to get pop the snap ring off. The whole idea is you want to move the shaft far enough out of the way where it disengages from the ring and pinion, so you can take that out and do the swap.
Everything's out of the way, the bolts are out, and this is ready to be removed. Now, a lot of guys will just get in here with a couple pry bars underneath these bolts and pop it out, but the thing is pretty tight. So take a look here. You see these holes? A lot of people look at these holes and go, man, I don't even know what those holes are there for. I'll show you. This is pretty cool. So this is what you call the case spreader, right? So you drop these bolts in those holes right there. And this actually, it's like a little turnbuckle here. We can tighten this baby down. We get it hand tight. And this will open the case ever so slightly. I mean, we're only talking about thousandths of an inch, but just enough to make getting this out of there a little bit easier. So once you do get that out, you want to just, you know, release the case spreader so it doesn't take a set, and that way you don't bend the case. There. All right. You got it? All right.
Glad you disconnected that. All right.
I did.
Hey, you want to be careful, by the way. See that little ring right there? If you damage it or hit it, coming in and out, you're going to throw up a coat inside. So got a master technician like Matt working with you. You don't have to worry about that.
Oh, no worries. Here, dude.
All right.
You left those in there. You might want those.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to loosen up this spreader, and we can take a break, and when we come back, we can start the reassembly.
Nice.
There we go. Welcome back to Truck U. So things have come apart nicely, and we're at that point now where we can kind of reverse the order and start putting things back together again. Almost, right? We're almost there. Now, keep in mind, we're doing an upgrade from the 410 to the 488 on the Advantech system, which comes in the JL. So anytime you're upgrading your Advantech system, you have to use the Spicer gears. It's the only option available. So think about it like this, though. You've got the Dana Advantech axle, which is like the whole kit and caboodle, everything. And within that is the Spicer Advantech gears, right? So you're going to hear that word Advantech a lot of times because it's kind of the central theme of everything that we've got going on today. So right about now, like like I said, I think I can just reverse the order, start putting this together, but I need to get Bruno on that pinion. It's about time he does something. So when you go to torque these down, there's a pattern that you want to follow. You want to go 1, straight across over to 2, and then all the way around. Doesn't matter which way you go.
So Matt has got that new ring gear installed and torqued down to spec. It's in place. Now it's time to get the spool out and start putting the new parts in. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So you can see side by side, we've got the 2 pinions. This is the one we just removed, and this is the new one we're putting in. Now, both of them are the Advantech system. You can tell that by the same diameter on the back side of it, but where they look different is on the splines up front. Obviously, different ratios. This is a 410, this is a 488. This has got 8 splines, this one's got 10. You can see the size comparison right there. Now, one thing you want to talk about before you put this all back together is this ring has got to get put in place. Now, I mentioned it briefly as I was taking it off, is you want to be careful not to bend it. Well, the reason why is because it's pretty fragile. You want to set it over here and use even pressure. You can do it with your hands, actually. You don't want to go medieval on it, because if you bend it, it's going to set up a code, and you're going to have all kinds of problems, so you don't want that. So then the solenoid goes over the top, and you want to try and make sure you align this tang with this, and this is what actuates it and locks it in and out. There we go. So time now to install the new ring and pinion from the guys at Dana. Now, one of the great things about working with the folks at Dana is that all their products are really precise and to really close tolerances. So we should be able to simply take the old shim, put it back into place, and install now the new bearing cup. Now, we will go ahead and check things at the end and double check with measuring, but just save us a lot of time and energy in setting it up and taking it apart. But if we had to make an adjustment, it's easy to do because that shim sits on the bottom of the bearing cup. So we've got this handy dandy little tool from these guys for in terms of install. Now, if you don't have this, which most people won't, you can use simply a big socket and go ahead and drive it into place. All right. So it's now time to put in the new pinion gear. Now we've got the rear seal on. We'll put on the collapsible spacer. That goes that way. Now we'll fish it through, and what we're going to do is kind of play with it a little bit. So what we've got to do is get the splines back on the back side of this thing, and it can't get it very far by hand, so you got to kind of drive it down, get it far enough to reuse the old nut, torque it down to the right settings. But first of all, we got to get to that point. All right, looks like we got to bring out the big guns now.
Hey, hold on. Before you hurt yourself.
What you got?
I'm worried about you. Check this out. All right, I just threw this together for you. Now look, you see how that goes? Watch.
Where did this come from?
That just whipped it up.
I
saw
see
you over here, and I'm concerned about your safety. Yeah.
Look at you.
I know. I got you another impact too. You can't have too many.
It's rather impressive.
All right, so that should hold everything in place.
So you do love me after all.
Well, I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I have a genuine interest in you not getting overly hurt. I mean,
this way I can do all the work
still. Love, I guess, but I mean,
all right.
Whatever.
Well, thanks, man.
Here.
This makes your life a whole lot easier.
You got that, dude?
Yeah. I just can't believe you just whipped that up.
Well, I was in the back there, and I had a couple minutes, in between snacks.
You just eyeballed it?
Yeah, just right there.
All right.
Rough sketch.
Who knew? That should be good to go.
I think you got me nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoop.
There you go.
There we go. Boom. Just push that down.
Now, the one thing that's cool, too, is the fact that all our shims should still work like they were from the factory. We'll go ahead and check it afterwards, but, saves us a little bit of a hassle.
So we just got to, fish that back through and get everything plugged back in. But we'll get to that. Then when we put it all back together, we got this brand new diff cover for the front there. That's going to look awesome, right? So this thing, it's stronger. It looks good with the color. It's going to give it a tough look in the front. But look at that, man. You talk about impact. If you're doing some off-road stuff, this is going to be great. And what's nice is you've got this raised fill plug too, right? So think about a higher pinion angle, and the axle's kind of going this way. So all the fluid's kind of rolling towards the front here of the vehicle. So now you're going to need more fluid because it's all bunched up in the front, and you can fill it up through that higher fill plug. So
yeah,
they kind of thought of everything.
Big improvement over the stamped steel when it comes from the factory.
Yeah, Another cool and unique thing about this diff cover is the fact that we can reuse the existing gasket. So we pull this off the old one, right? It's a little bit grody right now, but we'll clean that up, get it good as new, and we'll pop it on this one. It'll be perfect. We don't have to mess with all that RTV. Now we're at the point where we can check the backlash and the pattern. So we put the dial indicator on there, and now we can check the backlash. And we want it in between 3 and 6 thousandths. It's kind of our acceptable range. We check that in 3 different places. We're good to go on that. Now we can put on the paint there and check our pattern.
So our pattern looks pretty good here, don't you think?
I like it.
I think we're good to go on that. It's a good time for you guys to take a quick break as we button this thing back up. So when we come back, we want to show you guys our new lift.